trans people aren't scary. We're not perverts, especially with this climate that's been going around. There's a heated bathroom debate on whether or not transgender people should be allowed to pee in public. And I think it's really ridiculous. We're just normal people, just living our life how we need to be, like anybody else.
I knew I was different when I was young. I just didn't know how different. I didn't care for dolls or dresses or makeup or anything that was deemed feminine, and I always hung out with the guys. As I grew older, I was granted the label of tomboy by my mother. I didn't think it quite fit me, but since when could you put a 100% accurate label to describe someone? I just rolled with it like most kids. As I grew older and went through puberty, I grew more disgusted with my body, especially when the topic of menstruation came up. I was always ashamed of it, and I didn't understand why, since it was pretty much celebrated by any adult woman. At least in the puberty videos and sex ed. Not to mention, my peers were more or less neutral on it, and it never came up in any discussion. But it did when I was in high school, and it was usually viewed in a negative light, which reinforced the idea that girls just naturally don't like their period, and it was only welcome as an indicator that they weren't pregnant. And it was also in high school that I was introduced to the concept of gender identity in psychology classes. That's when I think I felt more comfortable associating with the trans identity, but didn't openly say it. Sometimes I would jokingly say that I was technically a transvestite because I would wear pants instead of skirts or dresses. You know, stereotypically women clothing. Looking back, I said a lot of things that should have been red flags. I've said that if there was a button that would make me wake up as a guy, I would press it with no question. And I've also said that I would rather be born as a gay man than a straight woman, which in a conservative environment is very controversial. At first I thought I was realizing that men had better treatment in society than women, and I wanted in on that. But after soul searching, that wasn't it. I didn't know what to do at that stage in time. I couldn't address my feelings on it. I just thought, I'm not like those people who actually are transgender because they want surgery and I don't. I was so far in the closet, I had dual citizenship with Narnia. Several years later, I would lurk on forums and talk with people. And that's when I learned about what transgender is and what they did to correct their bodies. I learned about body dysphoria, and I learned about hormones and their effects, but I still couldn't call myself transgender because so much focus was on how they couldn't live in their bodies anymore. Even though I didn't like my own body, I wasn't quite that level. I was still different. A few years later, I decided to do an experiment. I went all out on one end of the spectrum. I wore very feminine clothes, makeup, and made attempts at looking pretty. That didn't last very long. Then I started to dress more androgynously. I wore very neutral clothing, and I cut my hair short enough for it to still be considered feminine, but also masculine if styled proper. Even then, I still felt like it wasn't enough. Then, I cut my hair shorter, wore more masculine clothes, and for the first time, I felt at home with myself. Even without hormones, and even without surgery, that little bit of appearance as male and being addressed as such made a world of difference. When I looked in the mirror, it was like seeing myself for the very first time. And despite all this, I still have struggles in accepting this for myself. The tomboy label has been ingrained in me for so long that I constantly have doubts. And there's also misconceptions that trans people have to have body dysphoria in order to be truly transgender, both in and out of the transgender community. And the hardest part in coming out isn't coming out to friends or family or even to strangers. The hardest part in coming out is taking a good hard look at what you've been raised to believe is normal versus abnormal, and reevaluating your own belief system and who you are as a person. You can always cut the people out of your life that don't accept you for who you are, but you have to live with your own mentality. And it has taken a lot of soul searching for me to accept that I'm different in several ways. I couldn't do it alone though. I've surrounded myself with people that cared about me. I went to events where I could be myself and everyone was okay with it. I've made new friendships, and I've gained confidence in myself in just being me and living life. But despite this confidence, when people use my birth name or the wrong gender, it's still grating on my ears, and it feels like everything that I've built for myself just melts away. I'm not even allowed to use my preferred name at work when addressing customers or new coworkers. The older coworkers still use it, even though they're forbidden to as well, which I'm very grateful for. And I have to act like nothing is out of the ordinary, even though it's very clear that I stick out like a sore thumb. I've been called sir sometimes, but as soon as I talk, they quickly apologize. I don't exactly sound like Barry White. And I've also been commented on my feminine appearance and how it's so envied, which is incredibly awkward. All I can do is smile and nod. I don't feel the typical body dysphoria, but it still affects me when I have to suppress myself for reasons beyond my comprehension. People think that transgender people like me are confused. I'm not confused. I'm just a different type of man.